kindergarten, and one of the things that we do with the vocabulary words is I have the students generate movements that help express what the word means. And then at the end of each week, we play Simon Says with them.
Wonderful. And also, if you want to create a concept word wall and you're able to get images that express or define what those words are, that really helps. Now, because these words may not be decodable at the time that they're read, you know, we're not holding the children accountable to spelling them and knowing them in rote and having a spelling test on them. It's just purely for, you know, exposing them to that critical vocabulary that's going to help them in other read alouds. Yes?
In digital format or only in the flip book?
The media disc that I have is what we have, the CD and the flip book. So is that digital? No.
So
The CD.
so you could show this on a smartboard.
Yes.
Yeah. Same exact thing. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, and it's actually that. Well, I won't go there. I was going to say.
We're going to share some information on printing and ordering tomorrow, but you know, the part of that is what things don't have to be printed because they all will be available online. Yes.
For the K2 listening and learning aspects of core knowledge, do the students ever have text in their hand for any of those levels?
So no, they do not. They do not for and Diana, you can kind of add to what I'm saying, but they do not because the focus is to get them information, and you heard the sort of content and level of information at a level that's not decodable yet, and we don't want to in any way hinder what information we can give them in the sophistication of what we say by trying to get more decodable or get at their level, you know. So it's not there's never a text in their hand. The focus is really listening.
Could I add something to that
Yes,
also?
yes.
One of the things we've done is print the flip books on regular paper and put them in plastic sleeves with, you know, rings. And when we start each lesson, we have the kids summarize, so there's something that they say when they see that image. And then during partner read, they can choose those books, and there's no text on the pages, but they just read the picture. They know what that picture means and what the content on that picture is.
That's fabulous. Yeah. And if there's others, so I know who in the room is actually using listening and learning. Okay, so as we're doing this, you know, please continue to share your ideas because this is a growing body of expertise, you know. But there's some questions.
I wanted it to be made very clear or not.
Yes.
Some of the teachers in our district have they're taking the image cards and the anthology and they're putting them both up for display. So they're actually showing the text. That my understanding was should be just letter aloud, that they should be listening, and that should not be posted there. So just some clarification around it, 'cause they heard last time from the state that was okay to do, and then they heard otherwise. So
what grades are they doing that?
that's the K2.
But they're doing it in all three grades.
Yeah.
So we got a question from this from an email. Do you want to fill it? Okay. We have gotten a few actually email questions on this, and went ahead and put it up our food. Jane got to Linda, who's our president, who actually developed a lot of these materials. And the critical thing in listening and learning is that they are not expected to decode or read any text that they see. So it's an oral task from the child's standpoint. If the teacher wants to pair sort of a visual cue of text up there, maybe there's kids who are reading it, maybe they feel from just a kind of symbolic level, like I want them to understand I'm reading words, you know, that sort of level. We don't have a real issue with showing text or showing that there are words that are being read as they're looking, but any engagement with the children, any question asking, you would never sort of show the questions, for example, at the end and not read them to the children and sort of say, do your questions. So, I mean, the big important thing is that the engagement of the task is all oral. I think having the visual there, if that's somehow...
As long as they're not pointing to it, reading the text that way. Like, that's what teachers, instead of having it in their lap, they're actually looking at the image card that they've now superimposed the words that they're reading, and they're pointing to the words as they read it.
I personally still don't think it's a problem as long as it's, I mean, that's still an oral task from the child, from whatever the child needs to receive to complete the task.
So then that's okay for us to tell all teachers that they can.
If they feel strongly about it, unless, and I'm going to say this, unless somehow this is distracting to kind of the comprehension and task at hand, you know. So that's if the children are somehow thinking now they're needing to try to think about the words and read the words, and they're not listening to the question or engaging, which I don't know if that would happen. Have you ever seen teachers using the text in that way?
No.
Okay, so it's not typical. Let me put it out there. You know, I wouldn't. It's not typical, and I'm not sure it's necessary or sort of why they want to do it. But if the task remains oral from the child's standpoint, is I'm being clear? Showing the text is not a big deal. Yes.
I have a question that I think is specific for David.
I'm sorry.
I have a question based on a video that we've seen online of you leading a second grade lesson. There was a science book, but students had the text in hand. Is that a lesson that, and it was focused on this idea of close reading. So we hear the close reading language a lot in the 3-5 expeditionary learning materials, but you were modeling that. Is that lesson example you were doing there coming out of like a skills lesson part of core knowledge, or is that something that was different?
That wasn't core knowledge at all. That was devoted to strictly the concept of close reading, number one, and number two, that you don't have to wait till the 3rd grade even to do close reading. I mean, it's a little harder in kindergarten, but by the middle of 1st grade, it was meant to demonstrate, close reading of complex informational text. And that's what it was. It was complex